been about a month since the final game, a win over Baylor. What's your process like right after that? There's not an off season, right?
No, there's not.
You get right into it. So that's a Saturday. How does it unfold after that?
Yeah, Saturday, obviously, you meet with the team afterwards. Not the situation you want to be in when you're meeting with the team with games still be played if you did enough. But you meet with the team. I met with the seniors kind of separate, the returning guys, and then when we get to Monday, you start with the evaluation and exit meetings. And where we're at in college baseball now, it's building a new team every year, and that's just the nature of it. And we got some guys with drafts and transfer portal and all that mixed in. So you're trying to build that and start figuring that process out.
Is that conversation, can that be uncomfortable, or is that just adults sitting in a room having
I think
conversation about what we think of you, what you see your future here?
Yeah, I think that's it. There is some uncomfortability about it, but not when we can both handle it like professionals. Like, this is their career. Obviously, this is one part of their career. We have to always do what's right for the program and just make sure everybody's on the same page and be upfront and honest about roles, expectations, and then move on from there.
I went back and watched your media day interview preseason, and of course the team's coming off an NCAA tournament bid in your first season, and you talked about that you felt the team had built a level of athleticism, depth on the mound, variety in the bullpen. As you look back on it, those statements you made, what do you think of those statements? Yeah,
I think obviously the athleticism, I thought as a whole we defended at a much better level, and you take fielding percentage out of that. I think if you watched our team with the defensive players, the amount of hits we take away with Diamez in center and Antonio at short, and moving it around there. Could we have played a little bit better team defense, I think, in the end of the year? Most definitely. There's some things that were left out there. Then you look offensively, obviously, I don't know what exactly we hit, but it was probably 40 points higher than we did the year before. Stolen bases were up. Walks were up and strikeouts were drastically down. So I thought we made some massive improvements there, and that is partly because of athleticism, other because of skill, which are two different things. Power numbers probably needed to go a little bit more than we had in certain spots in the lineup. You probably need a little bit more out of third base, left field, first base combination, any way, shape, or form, and honestly, the bullpen didn't probably perform up to expectation.
One of the questions you were asked was about what you saw as your starting rotation, and your response was you thought you had 5, 6, 7 guys that were competing for spots, and you open up with Stagliano, Hartley, Siegel. That is not the 3 that you end that series against Baylor with, 3 different guys. What happened?
I mean, I think Dom Stagliano dealt with some injuries and was trying to push through it. It didn't really line up. I thought the last month of the season when he got moved to the bullpen, we all started to kind of see Dom back to form. Wish they would have started the year like that. But then Wicker and Sauser and Sandifer and those guys pushed to the front of that rotation, and Siegel was really good for us in the midweek. That's the stuff that he did in the midweek is very, very valuable. It just worked out that role went that way. Hartley, up and down, but that's just kind of how the thing goes. And you're trying to scramble, and you get to the end of the year, and halfway point, you're just trying to give yourself a better chance on the weekend in the league.
With those pitching struggles, like, how does you and your staff evaluate that going into the off season, especially with the transfer portal and JUCO players, high school players? What are you kind of looking for in pitchers?
Yeah, I mean, you're looking for stuff that works out there in the biggest games and the biggest moments, and I think that always goes back to fastball command and above average secondary pitch that they can throw for a strike. So, like, if they don't have fastball command and they don't have a secondary pitch that they can actually put in play, that doesn't work in this league. You can't just throw 100 and no slider, and you can't just throw all sliders and not be able to challenge hitters and get them off of something. So you start there, and then you start looking at, can they use another secondary pitch? Is there one? Okay, now that's in play, so is that a possible starter? If it's not, then you're a 2-pitch guy that you think can be a back-end bullpen piece. And when you look at the season, I think if we can finish some games, we're in a better spot. And that's not all on the pitching. Like, the pitcher's out there at the end and we give up a run and everybody focuses on that, but there's probably something defensively we could have done as a team to help that guy out. And honestly, offensively, if you take advantage of the opportunities early in the game, maybe it's not even a closed role. So a lot of the focus gets put on that. And yes, I want to close those games. And the year before, we did a really, really good job of finishing those games out. But it's not all on the pitching. Like, this is a team game, and that's the focus at the end. But I think there's some things in the beginning of the game that if you can create some separation, it makes it a lot easier on the pitcher.
Yeah, with the recruiting, like, you've been on the recruiting trail. How's that been for you? And what's like a key selling point for UCF?
Well, I mean, this is a special place where I think you can do a lot of first here. A lot of good stuff has already happened here, a lot of great stuff, but you can truly come here and be the first to ever win a Big 12 title. We can be the first to win an NCAA tournament, Super Regional, World Series at a place where I feel, and most of the guys that come here feel that it can actually happen. It's realistic. We're resourced in the way that we can do that. The plan's in place. That's a special challenge. Or you can go somewhere it's happened 20 times and just be a part of that too. But this is for somebody that wants something different.
Do you feel like being like a former player has kind of helped in the recruiting process?
Yeah, I think one thing to sell a product as a head coach, it's another one when you're selling it and you live it and you truly believe in it. And the stuff I'm telling them I went through, I know what this place is like, I know what the city's like, I know what this program's built on. I think it's a lot easier for me to sell it to them.
Let's talk a little bit more about roster construction. You mentioned you got a new team every year. How do you approach the portal?
Well, you're looking at immediate help, right? Like, this will be really our first class of freshmen that we've been able to go through the process the whole way. These guys were sophomores going into their junior year. We were able to actually evaluate that in the proper timeline of the normal timeline. So we have some freshmen coming in that we feel that can help right away, and if not help right away immediately in big spots, like create a role for them in our program. So you got some of those holes filled with the freshmen, but there's obviously immediate draft stuff with Antonio and Diamez and Espinal and Dylan King. So you gotta use the portal to immediate help when you weren't really planning on losing those guys. So that's how we look at it.
How has high school recruiting changed with the portal becoming a bigger part?
Well, just the sheer volume of high school players that you recruit is down now. With the roster being dropped, one is huge. So with it losing 6 spots, every team in the country is losing 6 spots, and the opportunities for those high school kids. So you're trying to be really specific on the high school kids that you recruit, and if you don't feel like they have a role right away, it's probably not right to bring them in, because they're not going to be happy with their role. And if you're planning on developing them and you can't get them in the game, at least some sort of role, the chances of them hanging around and waiting for year 2 so you could actually see the development is probably slimmer.
On that development question, what do you hope to see in growth and development from your freshmen from this past season to this coming season?
Yeah, I think Robbie Dimitri, like, he just needs some at-bats. Love to see him, what he's doing this summer out there. Mateo Gray the same way. He's moving around, playing some first and third and pitching, and just the opportunity to get out there to get the reps that they need. And then all freshmen, like, it's a big summer and fall for them physically. That first fall, they're trying to get physically better in the weight room, and then they're trying to learn this thing, and this thing's moving at a mile a minute. Now they come back and they kind of understand what's happening, so the player development, I think you really see that jump that second year, like you saw with Andrew Williamson. Big summer, spent it. The fall was outstanding because I think the game slowed down for him, and then that thing transitioned into a really special sophomore year for Andrew.
On Mateo, do you see him as a two-way player, utilizing him in?
We do. Obviously, the bat, you saw glimpses of it this year. The pitching, the strike throwing, the competitiveness, 100%.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about Andrew Williamson and what it meant to the team and to you for him to return for another year.
Yeah, he's a special person, first of all. Like, you can watch the baseball stuff and see the power and the hit tool and the defense and the arm and the foot speed with the stolen bases, but he's a really special person. Does everything right. Classroom, off the field, in the locker room, extremely hard worker. Like, he's everything you would want as a teammate and as a player that I'm fortunate to coach.
And you talked about development a little bit. What's the development been like for you year 2 at UCF? What did you learn, and what were some like key moments in your time here?
Yeah, there was a tough year. There was a stretch in there that challenges not only me but the whole staff and the players to try to stay focused on what the real purpose is and trying to get this group get better every day, keep fighting, being tested, right? Like the program was being tested, and I thought we started to play a little better at the end. But there's a lot from this year that we can take into next year, where you feel like you're really far away, and then you start going back into games. And I've challenged some of the returners to look at those stuff. And yes, we were far away, but in some of those games we were right there. And in 1 or 2 games goes another way, we're probably looking at this thing a little different.
Yeah.
Do you grade yourself as you're watching game film? And
All the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I mean, every time you leave this place, you look at every decision you made and everything from where you got a guy in the lineup to who you used and when. And yeah, you have to. There was only a couple times, maybe one time I felt like I would not have changed anything, but that's probably normal for coaches on that part.
Was that a win?
No, it was a loss. I would have done it the exact same way. But.
How's settlement now? What impact do you see it having on UCF, increase in scholarships?
Yeah, and that's obviously across the board in our sport. So just staying up with what everybody else is doing, I think we're a long way from this thing completely shaking out and understanding what we have and where that fits. And I'm just grateful that we have the resources to try to limit the impact on our families here, because this is not football, this is not basketball. For a long time here, baseball, our families have been paying a lot of money to help their kids through this and give them this opportunity. And just hopefully with this we can lower the burden on the families and create a really great experience for these guys.
What impact do you expect to have from rev share?
Impact as far
Revenue
as
sharing, what do you anticipate from UCF?
I mean, they're helping us with that part of it, where that fits in. We're going to pretty much use it to match with our scholarship so we can get as many guys to zero as we possibly can.
What's it been like to kind of navigate the new world of NIL to whenever you're recruiting?
Yeah, it's wild, wild west, right? So, I mean, you look back 3 years ago when it was just starting, the market was at a certain level, and now, depending on who's recruiting the kid, what the market looks like, you really have no idea. But we got to stay in our restraints and figure out the way to build our best team and really focus on guys that want to be UCF Knights and build it from there.
You talk about identifying guys and through the portal, and you're looking at stats and things. How much do you dig in on mentality? How much of a sense of the guy and his character are you able to get in that process?
I mean, that's obviously the hardest part, right? Like, for us, especially in the portal, you got to pretty much trust the high school coach that was around them, and then in some of these cases, you're trusting the guy that just coached them, and you're hoping you're getting the right info and the correct info, and you do as much research as you possibly can. You talk to them. Part of what you lose is a little bit of the visit world in the portal for us, baseball-wise, because this is so fast, and the time is short as far as the recruiting part of it. So you're trying to do Zooms and phone calls and try to dive through that as much as possible. Where the high school kid, you spend 2 years with the guys, multiple visits, meet the family. It's slowed down from that part of it. But this portal stuff, that's probably the hardest thing. You can look at the best part of the evaluation for the player is you have a database of performance, and hopefully performance at this level, so it's easier to kind of shift through that. But like, that is by far the hardest part, and we try to do the best we can with that.
What kind of pieces are you looking for in the portal?
And we need middle infield help, obviously. SP, Jimenez, that's something that could go crazy for them not to sign for the years that they had. So you're looking at some of that middle infield depth to help some of our freshmen get through this. You're looking at the outfield to look at, you're figuring Diamez Ross gets drafted, but you don't know, so you're trying to shore up that. Catching, we've already done that, where we got some guys that if Dylan signs, we're not in trouble there. And then the pitching, like, you're trying to obviously start with the rotation and then get specific with some of the bullpen pieces, which to this point we feel real comfortable with some of the guys we're able to get that we feel are back into the game options.
And with those guys that you mentioned, with Espinal and Ross going possibly into the MLB, what are the talks with them like about preparation and the draft process?
Yeah, and I told the guys in the meeting at the end of the year, if you try to figure out the Major League Baseball draft, you're just not. Like, I've been trying to figure out for a long time. You won't. They've done enough where they deserve a shot, and the draft is less about where you fit talent-wise. It's not the NFL draft where they got them slotted and you're going to spot and the money's already taken care of. It's about what you value yourself at money-wise and what the team does, and does that match up, then they'll take you. That's why the rounds are different, and signing for slot versus not signing for slot. And after the 10th round, there's different rules, and just the crazy part of that. And I know those guys have worked really, really hard for this opportunity. I hope they all get that opportunity and hope they get taken care of like they should.
At the preseason media availability, you're asked about what did you learn about the Big 12 after one season? What have you learned about the Big 12 now after two seasons?
And I think, the Big 12 was really good this year, top to bottom. The physicality, absolutely no weekends off, and it's really, really hard to win a game in this league. And that's what I thought it would be going in. This league was, you got how many teams in? 8? Probably 1 or 2 should have been hosting. That's probably the only thing when you look back at the end. That's probably what we'll talk about in our meetings as head coaches, is how do we got 8 teams in but nobody hosting. What do we got to do different as a league? But really, really good league. The pitching, I thought, was better as a whole when you looked at the league, the starting pitching and who we played. And that you'll see it in the draft, the amount of Big 12 guys that go in the MLB draft here pretty soon.
I think it's easy to look at season 1 to season 2 and see that 9-21 record in the Big 12 and say there was a decline, right? Just on wins and losses.
No doubt.
Do you see areas with 2 seasons in that you feel the program has grown into the Big 12? There's going to be a transition, which I know fans aren't always patient about. But what growth do you see having been made over 2 seasons?
Yeah, I think when you look at the position player group as a whole, I thought we matched up position player wise with the league. When you start looking at just the physicality and the athleticism of some of those teams that rolled in here, you guys saw it as when Oklahoma State, who won our league the year before, came in here. I thought physically we were probably overmatched, but those kids that we had mentality wise and toughness and some of the leadership part of it, as far as just older experienced guys, kind of handled that. So I thought we matched up physically. Probably didn't match up experience-wise. If you looked at our league was really old. The West Virginias and the Kansas, when you look at the rosters, they had a lot more experience than we did. Like to see that. We have to be conscious of that and make sure we're not too young in some spots. That's just college baseball. But at the same time, we want to play freshmen that are ready to do it and have a chance to help us. So I think just the overall making sure that we match up physically, and we got to get better on the mound from a depth standpoint.
UCF had a great start at the beginning of the season, especially with those non-conference games. What are you looking for schedule-wise for next season?
It's pretty much the weekends are done. The mix and match on the midweeks is probably the toughest part, because with us not getting the Big 12 schedule till later and figuring out when we have to go to Utah or BYU or when we're going to play Thursdays, or are we not playing Thursdays. I think this year we had 3 Thursday, Fridays, Saturdays, which kind of limits your midweek opportunities and depends on where you go. But the weekends are done. It will be the toughest schedule that UCF's ever played. There's not going to be a schedule. I can't tell you everything, but there's a tournament that we go to play an ACC team, a Big Ten team, and a SEC team. Obviously USF's here. We'll play another team on the 4th weekend that's just was in the College World Series here at home. And then the Big 12, top to bottom, is going to be really good again.
Big 12 tough league. Does it change your philosophy on how you schedule your non-conference games? Or are you looking, you mentioned some of those opportunities there. You want to be tougher in your scheduling?
I think it's a mix, right? It's 10 weeks of really, really tough baseball. You probably got to be smart on how you schedule as far as who's on the weekend, but I think you still have to challenge yourself on the weekend. This is the first schedule that we've been able to kind of build from scratch, where it really wasn't set up. Outside the opening weekend, we were pretty much open to fill it how we needed to on this one. But I think it's a mixture of both, right? You got to make sure that you're scheduling smart and don't challenge yourself too much that you're putting yourself in trouble and being a little crazy with it, but you have to challenge it. I think the USF series is great, just from the rivalry part of it, to the energy that just creates. I think that rivals a Big 12 weekend. Just making sure that weekend 4 is the right one, as far as challenging. Make sure we're continuing that. And then the tournament, I think, helps, because that's kind of your first shot at playing something that's a little different, closer to the Big 12 tournament, closer to an NCAA regional, where you have to go into that thing preparing for 3 different teams on 3 different days and adjust to that and have a different setup as far as BP on the field and all that stuff.
Your team is at one point 16-4. What did you think you had at that point?
Yeah, the offense was really rolling at that point. The power part was in there. We were pitching okay. I thought the bullpen was performing pretty good. And you leave that, you go to BYU and you win 2 out of 3 really tough series. And they fought through that part. We come back here and we got Houston on the ropes on Friday night, and it didn't close out the way we wanted to. Fought Saturday, Sunday, had another shot at it, and then you go into the next weekend and Dom Castellano's not healthy and Chris Sosnowski not healthy for 5 weeks. That kind of put us in a tailspin. I thought we were going to get out of it sooner than we did. That was a tough stretch. So then you're got some younger guys that have never been through that before and trying to fight through that. I thought for the most part they went about it the right way. Wish we could have played better, but I think some of those returners will learn from that experience.
How much does it stick at you to not be in that Big 12 tournament?
Yeah,
be at home.
Really bothers me. Like, I couldn't watch that stuff. Couldn't even put it on TV. People had to tell me what was happening. I couldn't watch it. Still have trouble watching this stuff right now. I was in Omaha this weekend. It was even tough to watch those games.
What do you feel like the goals and expectations are for your 3rd year at UCF?
Yeah, I mean, the same as it always is. We're trying to build the best team that we can, a roster that reflects what this program's about the way they go about it, and our goal is to challenge for a Big 12 title. That's the goal until we achieve that and find something bigger than that. And the beauty of our league is that that's really the goal, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to compete to win a Big 12 title. The other stuff will take care of itself. The NCAA tournament takes care of itself. The chance to host the regional takes care of itself. Being prepared to play a quality team in a super regional and win a series already takes care of itself if you make it through the Big 12 and do those things.
What will it take for this UCF team to get to that next level and make a stand in the Big 12 tournament?
Well, you think it's the toughness and the quality of play week to week. Like, it's 10 weeks, as you guys saw. Like, every weekend it's challenging, but it's also different. Like, the variety of styles of play, you'll see different one when Arizona comes here and Arizona State, and you'll see difference between TCU, Oklahoma State, and West Virginia, Cincinnati. Like, you have to be able to, be tough enough to take on that challenge, and then be versatile enough in the way that you defend, pitch, all of it, and hit and create opportunities offensively, because it's different every weekend. The way you got to beat Cincinnati's different than the way you beat Oklahoma State, and West Virginia's completely different. Kansas State and Kansas are 2 hours away from each other, but it's 2 different weekends as far as style of play, and that's the challenge of a quality of play, toughness of opponent, always at the top, but every weekend's a little bit different.
Like those off-script kind of games.
Yeah, and they challenge you defensively, and when we were really good offensively, I thought we did some of that stuff where we were versatile in part of it, and what just wasn't one-dimensional. That needs to continue to grow.
Rosters will change, and you have no idea how it's all going to shake out across the league. How far off, though, when you assess UCF against the competition that you've seen in the Big 12, how far off do you think UCF is?
I think all of our guys to a man would leave the week and go, we're not that far off. I know 9-21 feels far off, but I don't feel like we were outmanned in a lot of areas that we can't improve on. We're closer than probably most people think.
When you see in Arizona, West Virginia, getting in the NCAA tournament, the rest of the teams, I mean, close.
Mm-hmm.
You see it as
I do.
Shades there.
Yes.
Margins.
Yep. And the margins comes from quality of play. And that's the problem. That's on me. That's on. We'll address that and fix that. And there's some things there that I know we're capable of doing that we just didn't do.
Any changes in the way you approach coaching staff, strength and conditioning, anything?
Not strength and conditioning, athletic training, none of that. I mean, obviously with the coaching staff, I would assume most, if not all of them, will be back. It's just tough to tell it at this point. And Coach Thomas and Coach Lopez, Coach Tom, like they're highly coveted. So I'm fielding calls on that weekly, but as a point, no, not really changes right now.
What's it like being in Omaha?
I mean, it depends. Like I told somebody this story, like I was never going to go really until one of my teams went, and then my wife and I decided to get, or she decided that we were getting married in Rosenblatt. So I went out there the first time, and after that moment, I was like, I'll never not go out there for opening weekend. Her family always goes. They got season tickets, so it's kind of a family thing. Happens to coincide with our dead period, which is great. Makes me feel a little less stressful on that. But Sunday's Father's Day and do all that. It's great and kind of almost gives you a little extra life when you're out there, and it's the Super Bowl for college baseball and all the stuff that happens, and it's unbelievable. And then you go out there as a coach with a team and you experience that. That's a completely different experience. And then I think after that, every time I'm there now, it's like it gives you a little bit of anger is probably not, but just a little bit of extra juice where, man, we got to get back here. We got to be in these games. Like this is what it's all about. This is what all the crazy. You almost wish you could take your guys and just for 10 seconds show them that, and they would never be tired for a second.
So you sit there and you look out over that field and you go, this could be UCF.
100%. You're looking at it. I'm looking at the rosters and the way they're constructed, and looking at it and where we need to go and what it looks like, and can we do this? And my answer would be to our guys 100% yes.
The road to get there, you talked about like the expectations are still the same and a lot of the same things, strength and conditioning wise. What's one thing different going into year 3 that you do want to have for the team?
Well, I think hopefully we can get moving on this player development facility and get that going. Obviously right now we got to improve our area where our guys pitch. We only have an outdoor place, and we got to clean that up and figure out a way to do that, and that will help with kind of what we're doing. We'll add probably another staff member, not so much move guys around unless something happens, but we're probably going to add another player development staff just to give us a little bit more help and depth on that part of it, and bring in somebody that can add something to the staff.
As you reflect on the past season, look ahead to the next, what's your message to the fan base? Feel like a drop off, there's a little frustration there. They obviously want to at least get to the Big 12 tournament, if not the NCAA tournament.
No doubt.
They know what the program is capable of. What's your message to them in this offseason?
No, I mean, nobody's more frustrated than me or the guys, and that chip's been planted on those guys' shoulders, and when they roll out next year, I hope they're still behind us. This group's going to find a way to get this thing done and keep pushing and take that next step for us as a program.